Hey guys, Doug Giles here, Warriors and Wildmen. We just wrapped our 50th episode. It was delicious. And the link to the video is below this post. And thank you guys for following. And oh my God, is this next year going to be delicious. Y'all stay tuned. And always stay rowdy. Hey guys, Doug Giles here, little Warriors and Wildmen. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Doug?
Number 50, big dog.
Number 50. Can you believe we made it to number 50?
50 episodes.
Here we are.
I feel like a little schoolgirl, giddy as can be.
It seems like we've just begun. That's awesome.
And, we've been in it for a year. The followers at Warriors and Wildmen have heard our rowdy podcast and stuff. And man, I'll tell you what, this past week we got like 2,400 followers on Facebook. Our frickin' reach was over 70,000 people. Richard, I think we struck a nerve, big dog.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about starting this little experiment to see what would happen. We were saying, hey, let's do it. If it's something that people need and something that people want, we'll do it. We're not going to do it just to do it. And so we said, let's try it out. And almost 500,000 downloads in the first year and kind of exceeded our initial expectation for sure.
I think it's cool. I think we're obviously striking a chord. People are tired of seeing masculinity and men put down. You see it at the university level, constantly talking about how if you're a provider, protector, hunter, hero, if you're a patriarch, prophet, and king, well, then you're the problem with the planet, and you're the pariah that needs to be put down on a perennial basis. And Rich, all I got to ask is, how do you like that alliteration?
I think it was incredible.
It's popping the peas, man.
I
could over there modulating all my mic pops right now.
I could sit down for 20 minutes with a pen and paper, and I couldn't come up with that many. But I'll tell you, it's interesting because when I watch TV, which I try not to because it makes me mad. Everything makes me mad. But TV makes me mad. I watch commercials, and even in every commercial you see today, the man is a stupid idiot, and then the woman comes in, and she's so smart and barely tolerates this blundering fool who stumbles through life, like we're a bunch of Forrest Gumps or something. Yeah. And that stuff makes me mad. And because it's not just a commercial, it's not funny. If it was one commercial, that'd be funny. But it's a theme in television, in movies, TV shows, commercials, everything that we see. The women are smart, they're awesome, men are stupid, we're a bunch of brutes, we're animals, and so it's upsetting God's order. And that's why I think Warriors and Wildmen is super important, and I think it's needed.
Well, not only is the man stupid, and the woman is the healer, to come and lead him through his testosterone chaos, but also the kids. It's like the kid's smarter than the dad. The dad has no vision, no direction, no backbone. He's just kind of there. He's a sperm donor and stuff. And bro, I live in Texas, and you've met some of my buddies. My male friends, they're not visionless. They're not directionless. Again, man, they take care of business. They protect their family. They provide for their family. And and they might not do heroic stuff that you see on the movie, but they stand for truth in a day of lies, hype, and spin. And I don't even know who Hollywood is talking about when they portray guys as these pitiful doofuses, except, of course, for the young men, the millennials. Those guys, I think they have problems because they haven't been properly fathered. They don't have guys that carry classical masculine traits around them who provide a blueprint, a pattern for them to sail by. So they pick up on the cultural crap and they buy into this metrosexual hipster goofiness and these effeminate qualities. That's why I wrote the book Pussification, man, because I'm seeing the effeminization of the American male, the Western male, pretty much like no other time on the planet. And here at Warriors and Wildmen, we're here to crush that nonsense. We're here to help young people, in particular, young men, ford through this cultural morass and come out, looking like kind of a Jesus version of Clint Eastwood or Steve McQueen or John Wayne or something like that.
And I think it's important to note too, because people, look, if you're watching this and you've been following Warriors and Wildmen, you know what we think about a lot of topics. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that somebody might hear this for the first time and think, well, they're against women. They're putting women down. We absolutely are not against women. We support women being women. We support them being who God made them to be incredible, amazing, awesome. We want men to be men. Women can be women. We want men to be men. It reminds me of a story that I told on one of our podcasts about when I was in a class in college, and they were talking about what kind of traits are men looking for in women and women looking for women. It was the classic thing. You already know what all the answers are going to be. All the women are looking for stability, and they're looking for that kind of stuff. And all the men are looking for beautiful women, right? And so they go through the thing, and then they all try to act like, no, that's not, because they're trying to be smart. And I was just listening, and this girl who's very, very liberal says, why don't you ask Rich what he likes? And the instructor said, Rich, what do you like? And I said, well, I like a woman with long hair. I like nails that are done. I like a woman with makeup on, smells like perfume, dresses beautifully. I love to open the door. I like a woman that likes the door held open for her. I like a woman that enjoys that I'm going to pay for dinner. And I said, because I enjoy a woman that enjoys being a woman, because I enjoy being a man. And this is our opinion, right? Everybody blew up, the whole class went crazy. And
Crazy bad or crazy good?
Crazy bad. They're mad. They're furious. They couldn't believe that I would say something that was so terrible. And I married a woman that just happens to be a beautiful woman who enjoys being a woman. And she likes that I'm a man. She doesn't like men that aren't men. Men that are like you said, effeminate. And I think that's a problem, not only in the church, it's a problem in our society. And it's not a problem of how you act and how you dress and the ridiculous stuff they're making it about. They're taking away from God's order that God is in charge. They've thrown that out the window. As soon as they throw that out the window, they're going to flip God's order. Now the man's not the head of the family. Now the mom, honor your father and mother, that's not in place. Now the kids rule. We all run around chasing our kids, letting them lead our families. And we can see where that's leading. I mean, where that's going.
Yeah, and as the viewer and listener knows, homie, don't play that game. Here at Warriors and Wildmen, again, we stump for the provider, the protector, the hunter and hero. And a lot of kids, like I wrote in my book, a lot of men or males rather, they don't know how to get there. And so we always tell people, listen, if you're some kind of lost Crispin and you've got frequent flyer miles on bitch air and you feel weird about not being a dude in the classical sense of the word, then one of the things that you gotta do, man, and it's gonna be rough at first because they're probably not gonna like you being around them, is Rich, you gotta hang out with badasses, man. If you wanna be a badass, you gotta hang out with badasses. If you wanna be an entrepreneur, you gotta hang out with entrepreneurs. And if you got a bunch of peers, buddies that are shiftless and they're going nowhere and they don't have, again, grand masculine traits, then young person, for God's sake, man, find somebody who you envy in a righteous sense of the word, somebody that's worth emulating, and frickin' shadow the dude. And again, he's probably going to reject you, just like Elijah did Elisha. But there's a lot of stuff that jumps off simply by hanging around people that have greatness. I mean, you look at what happened to Joshua because he was rolling with Moses. You got Timothy with Paul. You got Elisha with Elijah. And one of the key factors, if you got a young person that's like, I don't like my life. Why am I wearing this deep V-neck T-shirt and these skinny jeans? It's like, then you gotta change your crowd, man. And that's tough. You gotta, and it's not so much tell, your current peers, tell them all to blank off and get rid of them, although that could be a good thing to do. But you gotta hunt, seek, and destroy and find somebody, again, who's got that enviable spirit, physicality, financial ability, and get around it. That greatness is begotten, and you got to get around somebody to beget it.
And the Bible says that bad company corrupts good character. And so if you hang around with bad people and it's going to corrupt good character, guess what? You got bad character, hang around with some good people, man. The converse is also true. Get around some better people, and that's what we're talking about. Because we need dads back in the home. We need mentors. We need coaches. We need people that kick butt to start modeling and showing people how to live this life. And that's one of the things that Warriors and Wildmen is for, and we're going to be rolling out a lot of that stuff. I'm excited about this next year. Doug, this first year was kind of an experiment.
Yeah, we tested the
We were
water.
kind of rolling around, talking about some things and figuring some things out. But this next year, there's some things coming into place. We're locking some things in line that are really going to help you out. And that's our goal, is to help, is to really help people that want help. And so I think focusing in on the warrior aspect, and we're going to be doing that, how to become a warrior dad, how to become a warrior husband, and focusing on the Wildmen aspect. And I'm one of those people, by the way, I never keep a secret. We talk about stuff, I'll talk to you about it on Warriors and Wildmen. But we're going to be rolling this stuff out, and we're going to show you how to be a warrior in the areas of your life that you need to be a warrior. But you know what? There's some times when you need to be a wild man. Yeah. You know, when we go hunting, I got to tell a great story. We went hunting, took my sons, Levi and Luke, and it was a few years ago. It was our first time on a hunting trip for big game. And Doug came out. He wanted to be there with the boys. And my boys, they think Doug's the greatest. They love Doug. He's bigger than life, you know. And one of the things I appreciate about you, Doug, is that you spent time with my sons there, talking to them, being a part of their life. It wasn't like they were some kind of annoying kids that were hanging around, but you invested in them intentionally, and they enjoyed that. They loved it.
Shot elephant guns.
Yeah, shot elephant guns. My son was like, I don't know if I want to do it. I was like, grab that gun, boy.
Shoot it, buddy.
And it was funny because when he shot the gun, Doug asked him, did you hit what you were aiming at? And he said, oh, I got to be honest, I wasn't aiming at anything. I was just trying to hold on to the gun, which fair enough, first time shooting an elephant gun that weighs almost as much as you do.
Yeah.
But
it has a decent little recoil.
Yeah, but one of the great things about it is and I think this is important because people say, oh, hunter, and you have to hunt. You don't have to hunt. You don't have to be a hunter. That doesn't have to be your hobby. But I'll tell you what, it needs to be something that you experience at some point, some capacity in your life, because my son shot an animal. He took the life of an animal. That was shocking to him. He's raised in a city. We cleaned the animal. We prepared it. We brought it home, took it to the processors and stuff to prepare the meat. Him and we cooked it and we ate it. And then he looked at me and said, Dad, I shot this. Yep. And now we're eating it. And I thought, why have I waited so long as a dad for my son to make that connection?
Circle of life, buddy.
Yeah, people are like, hunting is bad, but they're not vegetarians. It's like, you understand that you're retarded, right? Like, that's a part of, and maybe, like I said, everybody doesn't have to be a hunter. We don't have to be farmers, but you should plant something and grow it and eat it. We need to get back to being men, getting back to people that understand what this world's about, because we're getting crazy, man. The kids live on these freaking things right here. Yeah. I threaten my kids. I will take their phone and throw it out the window on the freeway, Doug. They know I'm not threatening. I want to so bad.
You know, in regards to hunting and stuff, I've taken 40 and 50-year-old men who have never hunted in their life, never experienced it, never got beyond the concrete pavement and stuff, and gone to some of the cool places that I've been around the world. And I've watched these guys who've never, ever experienced anything other than like Disneyland or the mall or some crap like that, just completely open up, get reconnected with serious relationships, deepen them, get connected with God. I mean, you think about it, Warrior and Wildmen listener. David said that when God restored his soul, he took him by green pastures and still waters. And I'm a big advocate, as you know, is get out, hunt, fish, do hands-on conservation. It's cool, like this morning we ate a quiche from hogs that we hunted. Yeah, and we provided for it. And there's been whole years, sometimes 3 to 4 years running, man, where every stitch of meat, every ounce of meat that passed through my snaggle tooth and down my gullet came from my hand. And I think, you know, does everybody do it? Do they need to do it? I would say no, they don't do it. Do they need to do it? Absolutely, man. Become a hands-on conservationist provider. And it's an interesting thing. And I got to tell you, as much as hunters are disparaged and stuff, and again, in Hollywood, some of the greatest people I've ever met, some of the greatest patriots. I've never been to a hunting campfire where there's liberal babble and blather going on. It's God and country, it's America, it's people who take serious politics, and or take politics seriously. And oh my gosh, man, some of the epic healing moments around campfires with fathers and sons, and I mean, look at Levi and Luke, man, and how tight they came, you know, with you. Yep. And you go through some rough patches, but it always comes back to, you know, those campfire talks, the father and son type stuff. And that doesn't happen at the mall. That doesn't happen where you have Wi-Fi and cell connections.
Well, on that, my kids they've been to Disneyland, unfortunately. They've been to Hawaii. They've been to different places like that. Both of my sons told me, best vacation we've ever been on.
Hunting.
And you know what was a great thing about hunting is that I took them on that trip, and while we were out there, we had one day that we had to track an animal all late into the night. And my son asked me, he says, Dad, do you have any of those energy bars that we got? I said, no, where are they? He said, well, we didn't bring them. I said, did you think I was going to bring that for you? You have a backpack. Well, yeah, we forgot them. I said, okay. A couple hours later, they're like,
suck it up.
Dad, we're hungry. And I turned around and told my son, I said, hey, guess what? We're all hungry. I said, do you think Caleb's hungry? He's hungry. You think I'm hungry? Everybody's hungry. Yeah. We're walking up the side of this mountain. We were out all day, Doug. We didn't eat 4:30 in the morning all the way until this is 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And they're not happy about it. And so we go. I said, I don't want to hear another. I said, I don't want to hear another word about it. So when we finally went and ate, we ate at Sonic. It was the only thing that was open. And my kids were acting like that was the greatest food they'd ever had. You couldn't even hear a sound other than sound like pigs at the trough, right? Like they were getting it on. And they were like, and then they said, thank you, Dad, for feeding us, you know. But the next day it was awesome. We woke up super early in the morning again, 4 o'clock, getting ready to do our thing. Not only were my boys ready to go, not only did they have the energy bars in there, Doug, they packed my bag. They had everything out there ready to go, and they started acting like men who were taking responsibility. And it's such a great, positive discipleship opportunity. Yeah. You know, discipleship doesn't have to be a class where we sit down and give you the Bible. And
hey, so Bradford Buckman asks, why do these jack-whacking sissy men think it's okay to be Mr. Mom or be the stay-at-home dad?
Oh.
And then he adds as a comment, as men, it's something ingrained in us to provide.
You know, it's weird. And I won't say what city I was in, but and thanks for the question, Bradford.
Brad, hashtag boom.
Boom. So about 20 years ago, I'm at this soiree with some very hoity-toity people, and I'm being introduced to my friend's her sister. And it's like, oh, what do you do? And she told me she was, you know, professional and stuff, and I saw her husband, who is this kind of sheepish guy that we, you know, talk about all the time. And you don't have to be obnoxious like Rich and I to be a man. Yes, it's an ascension gift from the Lord Jesus and stuff.
It's a sixfold ministry.
But this guy definitely, Brad looked browbeaten and stuff. And I said, oh, hi, what's your name? And he said, my name's so-and-so. And I said, well, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And I was like, oh my God. And the lady could tell that I didn't like it at all, Rich. And she goes, you got a problem with that? And I said, well, you know, it's not how I was raised. I was raised in Texas. I'm a stay-at-home dad. What you got going on?
That's a little
like, oh my God.
Not good.
And
yes. I was looking at the comments so that we could talk to you guys.
Yeah, so anyway, she goes, you got a problem with that? And I said, well, I was raised in Texas, you know. It's, again, it's the provider-protector type motif that I was raised with. Call me crazy. And she said, I've worked hard to get to this place in life. I've, you know, busted my butt in undergrad, grad studies and all that, and I finally got my job, and we had, you know, 2 kids during this process. I am going to do my job, you know, I'm not going to be a mom, so-and-so, my husband's going to do it. And she was kind of giving me that, you know, so kiss my ass type, you know, face. And so fast forward, I saw her at a wedding alone about 20 plus years later, and I asked her, you know, how's her husband? She goes, oh, we got divorced about 5 years after, you know, I initially met her. He got sick of it. She got sick of him. She despised him, which, you know, I knew that was going to occur. When I did the book, Pussification, Brad, I don't know if you got the book or not, but, you know, I wanted to know from the chicks what they thought about a guy who's not a provider, or protector, or hunter and hero, and if they would consider, you know, hitching their wagon to that mess and actually spitting out babies for him. And the overwhelming response was hell no. They might go shopping with them. They might go get a Frappuccino at Starbucks with them. But when it comes to, making hot, passionate, sweet love and having children with that kind of critter, the overwhelming response, Rich, was thumbs frickin' down.
That's right.
They didn't want anything to do with it. And they sell it to you in Hollywood. They sell, oh, go for the sweet guy. Go for the guy with the hair bun. Go with the guy that's wearing, the deep V-neck shirt and the bangles. He will be a sensitive soul. Hey, listen, man, I pop off, Rich pops off. We're very confident in who we are and what we do as dudes. But we can be sensitive. We can be sweet. It doesn't mean we have to be a pussy about it.
I'm super sensitive.
I think all the characteristics of like Jesus that we get taught now. Jesus was nice. Jesus was sweet. I think he was. I think he was
awesome.
Full of compassion, full of grace, full of mercy. But he was in no wise a little dandy about it. He was a carpenter, guys, before there were power tools.
Yep.
If you wanted to build a house, guess what? You get to go up to Mount of Olives and saw down an olive tree and then fashion it into a stick to put together with other sticks and then get mud and haul that crap down from the top of the mountain. There's no Home Depot. And I've grown up in the construction industry when I was in high school, and most guys who work construction, they're not little tinker pots. They're not dandies rich. They're not guys who are, oh, I broke a nail. These guys are badasses and stuff. And my whole point is that you can be the alpha dog in regards to providing and protecting, and you can be the alpha dog in first to forgive, first to give grace, first to give compassion, first to sacrifice. That's what we're talking about.
And it also doesn't mean that you're not romantic with your wife, not sensitive to your wife, not a person who listens. If people that they have a wrong,
I'm romantic all the time. I tell Mary Margaret, it's like, brace yourself, here it comes. I mean, that's romance.
But seriously, people think that. And then when you think of Jesus, they say, yeah, Jesus was meek, Meek, we had talked about this before, the picture of that is a war horse under the control of the rider. Jesus was under the control of the Holy Spirit, submitted to his Father, but he was anything but weak. He was powerful, but he was compassionate. Broken people love Jesus. They knew, hey, I'm a messed up person who has nothing to offer. I can go talk to Jesus. It was the religious people that are always getting in trouble. I want to give some shout outs because we've got people. That's why I'm on my phone. I'm not addicted to my phone. Elizabeth, what's up, Elizabeth? Paula, you're on here. What's going on? Annie, my wife, is on there, of course. Ashley, what's up, Ashley? And Teresa from Tennessee. That's good. Tennessee's good.
Tennessee whiskey, bro.
Doug, there's a lot of women on here listening to Warriors and Wildmen, and that's one of the reasons I was reading those comments, is because
I think
women want men that are men of God, not just,
operative word, men.
Yeah, that's right. And then Vianne's on here. I have to say hi to Vianne because that's Shannon's mom. Hi, Vianne. You're awesome. What's happening? Megan is on here. Rosa. Hi, Rosa. Bianca. Nick Aguirre. What's up, Nick? Alicia. Yep. Lots of awesome people on here. If you have questions, throw them on there. We'd love to say hi to you. Jennifer's on here. What's up, Jen? And Jen said, heck yeah, women want men. And Jen, her husband's Luke, and Luke. He's a man's man.
He's a badass. I saw him with his shirt off in a picture yesterday.
All jacked and stuff and looked like he works out all the time or something.
Why Rich has pictures of men with their shirts off on his phone, I do not know.
So I want to be buff. I want to be buff like Luke.
You got to hang out with badasses.
Yeah.
Man. If you want to,
He was standing next to the boat that I was taking a picture of.
Hey, I want to go back to something, man, that you said when we first launched our 50th episode, because I get called a misogynist all the time. Because
you get massages?
Yes, great ones.
To your wife?
Exactly.
Only.
Yeah, not a masseuse or a misogynist or whatever, but a misogynist. It's somebody who disparages and doesn't like women, and they believe that because, again, we're pro testosterone fog, Rich. We're pro masculinity, so we they assume that we've got to be these knuckle dragging Neanderthal mooks when it comes to ladies. I don't think these morons, and this guy named Steve on Facebook came to my defense. This one chick said, well, he must just hate women. And Steve goes, on the comment on Facebook, said, have you ever met his wife and his daughters? You ought to do research. And I responded to the chick, I can't remember her name. I said, I go,
Devil woman, that's her name.
Yeah, Jezebel, that's it.
Yeah, Jezebel.
I said, there's nothing like braying your insanity on social media and making yourself look like a total ass, you know. FYI, both of my daughters are Gracie Valente black belts. Regis was the first in the world. Hannah was number 2. The only reason Hannah was number 2, and she didn't get it when Reg got her black belt, because she had this thing called my grandbaby in her belly, and they thought, maybe we shouldn't do black belt training, you know, when you're 7 months pregnant. And Hannah, I don't know if you guys know, but Hannah had a movie made about her. So mean old testosterone fog-induced Doug raised such a crippled, browbeaten girl that, they made a movie about her going into Acorn and taking Obama's claim to fame down to Chinatown and saving us billions. And Regis stepped into the hunting field and activism for the Second Amendment. When she was a teenager, she was already writing for the NRA, man, getting paid. She was getting paid more money than I was getting paid for my articles. And she then launched a couple years later, Girls Just Want to Have Guns. And my wife can run intellectual and physical circles around most chicks, and she's a strong Sicilian Italian woman, and I guarantee those ladies are not oppressed and browbeaten and chained to the kitchen and chained to the bed, being barefoot and pregnant all the time, which Mary Margaret would be, because she comes from a large Catholic family, and if it was completely up to her, we'd have probably 20 or 30 children.
Oh, Lord.
No, I mean, she still wants to have them. It's like, dude, I'm 55. I don't want to be in diapers the same time that my kids are.
Yes.
So, yeah, so those who think we're misogynists, guess what? You can kiss my skinny, haggard, 55-year-old backside.
My brother-in-law, Buck, just invited me to go hunting. He said, let's go hunting. So I'm going to Montana. I'm going to go hunting. What's up, Buck? And then Edgar's on here.
Whoa. Does that invitation extend to me? Because I got Rich into hunting, man. I got him into some beautiful Ruger #1 300 H&H. Talk about elk medicine, man. That thing spits out a 220 grain triple shot X bullet at 2,700 feet per second, and it delivers a punch of about 3,500 pounds. That is elk medicine extraordinaire.
It makes a sound.
So when it hits something,
I would think, invite old Doug too, because we're co-hosts and stuff. Rich, if somebody wants to take me hunting, it's like you got to get Rich.
That's right.
Then we're going to bring Zeke, and we're going to chew the flesh and pound our chest and congratulate ourselves on being masters of the frickin' universe.
We're coming, Buck. We're going to come hang out. Edgar, what's happening? And then Buck said, yeah, let's all go. So
boom, done. I'll bring the cigars, man. Safari cigars.
Yeah.
Little Maduro box press wrap bundle of yumminess right here.
It's interesting because we talk a lot about men in church, that a lot of men don't want to go to church because church has become so effeminate, and it's not masculine. It's really geared towards women, and part of that is that men left the church years ago. You wrote about that in your book, and men left the church years ago, and so women kind of ran it and they cater to the women. But you know what? The men need to rise up. We were talking about that today. Warrior church needs to happen. Like, men need to, no man dreams of being some lazy kind of average run-of-the-mill guy, go with the flow.
Now they do.
Well, yeah, but real men, I'm talking about. And so but it's still inside of them, because God put greatness inside of people, and that's what Warriors and Wildmen is for. Look, this is not we're on the show, but it's not the Rich and Doug show. That's not the purpose of the show. Me and Doug have these conversations without the camera all the time. That's what we do. We talk about these things. That's how this happened. But what we want to do is we want to speak to you that if this is resonating with something inside of you, we want that to wake up, because we want you to become a warrior. We want you to become a wild man and be who God called you to be. And that's That's why we do this. It's not because we think we're awesome. It's because we think you're awesome and we believe that God wants to do something awesome in you. But it's going to require some things. And part of it is getting the want to. We can give you tools. We can't give you the want to. But we're speaking to that inside of you. And we want that thing to wake up so you can come alive, man. Live that life. And it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 13 years old, you're listening to this, you're definitely in time. If you're 80 years old, you can literally wake up what's inside of you and go with what you got and make it happen. So I want to see people get fired up, Doug.
Yeah, and I
want
think
to see people on fire at church and out of church. I just want people fired up.
the interesting thing about the church becoming effeminate, the roots of the church's effeminacy trace back, to the 12th century with the effects of Bernard de Clairvaux. And for the uninitiated, Bernard de Clairvaux was he was kind of like the Joel Osteen, of our day. That's what he was back then. And what he did, Warriors and Wildmen listeners, that he introduced he's a big songwriter, and he was the most famous preacher, and he introduced a bridal mysticism into his music, into the liturgy, that took a truth. The church is the bride of Christ.
Right.
Got it. Ephesians 5, verse 20, something like that. However, he took it to the extreme, and he started telling the ministers, Rich, that you need to view yourself as a mother that feeds the flock of God from the milk that flows from your breast. and that's what happened, man. That's what happened. You see what
I'm out of here.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
why would the men leave the church?
No,
So he said something like that.
What did you just say? So he's telling
What he
all
was
the
saying is, pastors, you need to give the people some booby.
Right, exactly.
You need to breastfeed them, nuzzle them to your bosom, and
he
give them
started-
the milk of the word.
He started introducing all this stuff into the music, and we're all women, and we're all feminine, and Jesus is our husband and our lover, and right then there was a 50-50 pretty much demographic makeup prior to the Bernard de Clairvaux. After that, you see a massive demographic shift with the imbalance going to the women, and all the guys they went off to war, they went off to sport. They went off to fascism or other type of ideologies, and then you had the supposed divorce between faith and reason during the Enlightenment, and how faith was superstition and reason being rational. That was more of a manly thing, and they didn't have time for this faith stuff. And then on top of that, you had the industrialization of the Western culture, in particular the planet, and it secularized the Sabbath, and so the guys, the men, aren't in church anymore. The men who did believe in God were pulled away from their families, and the mothers were there doing most of the discipleship and telling the boys how to be like Jesus. And then you throw the temperance movement on there. On top of that, where all of a sudden drinking beer or having a glass of wine is now you're the devil, and you have pastors getting behind these groups of angry women, and they're taking their pitchforks and their torches and chasing men and saying you're evil because you drink gin or drink beer or drink wine, and the guys were just saying, you know what, I'm done. Here's the message that they were getting from the church, and it wasn't subtle either. God hates me, and I owe him money. And so guys just completely dropped out. It's worse in charismatic churches. It's worse in black churches. There's way more women in charismatic and black churches, evangelical, and it's because, the pastors are there, and it's like they're up in the seats and they're explaining football to the women, and that's what churches has become, and it's sad because there's an aspect of spirituality that only a dude can bring to the kid equation. Yep. And parents, if you're fobbing off, dad in particular, if you're fobbing off your responsibility for the spiritual upbringing of your kid to your wife solely, or worse yet, to some youth group leader who's a glorified babysitter, then you have completely screwed the pooch in your responsibility, and you've abnegated a position that God intended you to have. Does the wife bring spiritual understanding and training to the kids? Absolutely. Does the dad? You bet. He's wisdom, He's disciplined. He's an outrageous sense of humor. He brings a lot of cool things to the equation that when he's absent, then you can expect that young boy in particular to raise up, if he doesn't get some badass that he's hanging around, to be a toad. And you can expect that young girl to find somebody who's a male who will pay attention to her once she comes out of puberty.
Well, we got to give a couple shout outs here. We had some kind of Facebook phenomenon just happen. We had Carlo from Washington. What's up, Carlo? What's happening? He's a cool guy. And then 2 Carloses come on right away. So we had a Carlo and 2 Carloses. Like that's
it's a
pretty
miracle.
Awesome.
A Christmas miracle.
Veronica's on here. What's up, Veronica? Sean's always a great guy. Anthony, Logan said something cool, and we'll get on this in a second. But let me throw this out there. It's funny because Jesus said something that we like to ignore. He said, "You guys strain at gnats, and you swallow camels. You tithe off a pickle, but you don't take care of your parents." And that's a whole deal with how the Pharisees were ripping off their parents and figured out a way to use their write-off at the temple to avoid taking care of their parents. And it's interesting because it's funny. Right now we're sitting here smoking a cigar. You know, I have tattoos clearly, and Doug doesn't, but I have tattoos. And Christians nowadays,
I've got Roy Orbison tattooed on my butt.
Yes,
just like Henry Winkler did in Waterboy.
Waterboy.
So
yeah.
Just full confession.
And what mama doesn't know. That's what he said. But it's awesome because you have that, you have cigar, you have tattoo, you were talking about drinking a beer. Those are the kind of things. Christians today in America, particularly, and other places that are years behind America in their weird culture, they'll say, those are the things right there that mean you're not a Christian. You're a sinner and you're wicked. But I'll ask you this, Doug, and I know the answer, but I'm lobbing you up a softball right now so you can hit a home run. What do you think is more destructive to a friendship, to a church, to a business, to a family? A cigar or gossip?
I'm going to go with gossip.
You're going to go with gossip. And the Bible says when you speak of gossip, the devil's the accuser of the brethren. And the devil, it says when you're gossiping, your tongue has been lit on fire by hell. But the same people that will not like you smoking a cigar will be the same people that will talk behind the pastor's back, talk behind another leader's back, talk behind their best friend's back, talk behind. And those are the same people that are destroying the church. They're like, you know what the problem with the church is? That cigar. If we could get rid of those cigars, we'd be just like Jesus. And that's ridiculous. I don't even have time for that.
If there's some folks out there and wherever this thing is streaming live now, and you want to get rid of your cigars, especially if they're like above a 90 rating in Cigar Aficionado.
We've been 87. We'll take those.
I got a P.O. box, man. You can send them all to. So, and usually, bro, why'd you get me going down this track, man?
Hey, you know what? Because I'm gonna get you fired up right now. Logan, worship leader from our church in Phoenix, said, well, I'm gonna rephrase what he said, but he's basically saying effeminate worship sucks.
I saw, Rich. I don't know if we talked about this. First of all, if you got to go to a church where the minister throws off a good John Wayne vibe, and ditto for the worship leader. I was preaching at this church in Holland, back in 2004, or something like that. And I preached there often. They had incredible worship. I'm talking European-type Scorpion bands. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Just metalheads, just slaying it. And I'll never forget, right before I spoke, they're doing this old song, Some Trust in Horses, Some Trust in Chariots, We'll Trust in the Name of Our God. And they were just grinding, just shredding, and just pounding the bass and just... And I got so lit up, man, that I jumped on stage, ran back to the drum kit, turned around, and hauled ass across stage and dove into the crowd. When that happened, pandemonium broke out. Everybody started jumping on the stage and just bodies flying everywhere. Incredible conference, man. Incredible worship. But wait.
That's of the flesh, brother.
Well, I'd say like David, during that weekend at that conference, my heart and my flesh sang for joy to the living God.
There you go.
So next year, I go in, different setting, same host, great guy, great group of people, and there was a different worship leader. And this guy was a softie, he's talking about Jesus being our lover, and I'm like, oh? Like, is this, where'd you find him?
Yeah.
Did the other band get killed in a bus crash or something? And this is the only guy that knows how to sing Kumbaya? And I kid you not, Rich, he goes, let Jesus embrace you right now. And I'm like, woo, everything in me, my skin was crawling. Listen to this guy who had his hair put the gel in evangelical. I mean, it's like up there like a weapon. And he goes, let Jesus just hold you right now. And he held himself like this. And then he started dancing, slow dancing, and turning. And I smacked the host. It's like, you need to stop him or I'm going to stop him right now.
Yep.
This is bull crap. And the host he went up there. It's like, all right, wasn't that marvelous? Thank you for giving us that. We're going to bring Doug on here in 5 minutes, going to do a couple more announcements. Just shut him down. Listen, guys, when David and his amigos and the other psalmists, when they sang, when they led worship, when they started up the music, it scared the enemy. The enemy would piss their pants. They'd throw their weapons down and run the opposite direction. And it was amazing. And it was a war cry. One of the psalms, it says going into the psalm, it's a sword dance. You know, it's stuff. These people were building themselves up. They were pumping themselves up before they went into battle. Now, we're not going into physical battle. We're going into spiritual battle. Why do we have these emasculated songs? Why do we have this music that makes you want to quit? That makes you want to fold up in the frickin' fetal position and wet your big Christian diaper? We should be singing songs of victory, songs of dominion, songs of Christ crushing his spiritual enemies, songs of the nations streaming into the congregation.
Well, check this out. This is a theological question that'll mess with people. What's worship for? It's for God. Really? So how about the Sabbath? Is that for God too? Because that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, hey, you know, man wasn't made for the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man. What was the purpose of Sabbath? It was rest and worshiping God. So when we worship, people are like, oh no, it's all about Jesus. Oh no, it's not. We don't worship because Jesus needs worship. We worship because we need worship. When we go and worship, what happens? It ministers to your soul. There's a part of worship that's a complete celebration aspect of, man, like you said, we're on the winning team. No matter what's going on in my life, I made it here. I'm a part of this, man. I'm a part of the body of Christ. Let's get it on. Let's celebrate. I can high five the person next to me. I can stage dive. I can, if it's appropriate in the environment that you're in, I can do, you know why? Because we're celebrating. And people are like, well, no, that's not focusing on God. Yes, it is. We're here celebrating together. Well, worship isn't about the people that you're with. Yes, it is. That's why we came together. We came together to worship together. It's an awesome thing that we're celebrating. And there's a part of adoration. There's a part of worship. Definitely a part of intimate and a soulish aspect and a spiritual aspect. It's all parts of the person worshiping. But it's all of that together. And whenever you get it out of order, it's crazy. And when we get worship that makes, I took a friend, actually he invited me to go to a meeting that he went at church. And he's not a Christian. He said, hey, you want to come with me? I said, I'll be glad to go with you. We went there and I was uncomfortable because the worship was so effeminate and bizarre. And when we left, he said, hey man, that just felt a little weird to me. I said, I'm glad you said that. I said, I go to church for a living. And it felt weird to me. You know what I'm saying? So we got to get our worship geared up. My friend Carlo, Pastor Carlo in Philippines, I met him. They had 80 people in their church. Their church is now thousands of people. Here's the incredible thing about that. I told him one day, I said, your worship is long and whiny. You know what he said, Doug? He didn't say, don't talk about our worship like that. He literally looked at me and said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you should celebrate. You should be victorious. We're overcoming. And he hadn't heard that. It's not his fault. Right. And he said, okay. So I helped him with some songs. I'm telling you, you go to their worship in the Philippines now, right. You're like, man, we are going to war. They are going to war in the heavenlies. Those guys worship Jesus. And down in the south with Pastor Roy and Davao, they worship like crazy. They are on fire. So some people don't know. Guess what? They know now because we told them.
I used to do prison ministry and stuff. And they usually had us.
Were you a volunteer or were you forced to be there?
I was a volunteer,
okay,
yeah. And we would do it on the second floor. And we'd come into a cell and shut it behind me. And there's all these, just precious, and I don't mean that, isn't it precious? These valuable ragamuffins that were about to get redeemed. And I didn't have a worship band. I didn't bring, John Denver in with me to, let's do Kumbaya 50 times. And I just would do these old hymns. And I'm not a singer, but I'm a worshiper.
Yeah.
And oh my God, man. So we do 3 services, and because of the noise that these redeemed yet incarcerated people were emitting with me singing, they said that they could hear it on the 6th floor,
That's what
and
I'm
it just
talking
shook the prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all the stuff we're talking about, the effeminacy of evangelicalism in particular, because that's the haunts that we frequent and stuff. I got to tell you, man, when I first got converted, I don't know if I've ever told my story to the Warriors and Wildmen folks and stuff, but I never went to church for a wedding or a funeral. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, fast cars, that kind of stuff. Started doing drugs when I was 12. Got converted when I was 21. Started dealing around 16 and stuff. Marijuana, acid, cocaine, crystal meth, that kind of stuff. And had a good time doing it. Didn't feel guilty. I was just doing my thing, man. However, sin, it's pleasurable, but it's for a season.
For a season.
And the season was running out on me. And so I'm in high school, and in my high school home group, Rich, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes main teacher sponsor was there with all the Christians, and then I was there planning my keg party with all the hellions. And I got the message from the Christians is that God hates me and I owe him money.
Well, now the message is God loves you and you owe him money.
Right. Now, and here's what was weird is that, and even the Christian athletes, they had this effeminate quality about them. It's like, you guys are the size of my bear over there in the corner. and when you'd shake their hands, they'd go like this.
We need to do an episode on how to shake a hand like a man. Come on.
So check this out. And they've got their little Izod shirts, and they have their socks that match them. Izod socks, Izod shirts, and they're just so nice. And they were mean as frickin' snakes to me, the sinner. Now, I had no idea that God loved me. And there was this girl named Christy that turned around and told me when I was 18 in my psychology class that Jesus loves you. Dude, that revelation blew my frickin' mind.
Yeah.
Now check this out. I didn't get converted then. I got converted when I was 21, so we still got 3 years. I was so convicted of my sin. I was getting, this feeling of Christ's love and forgiveness, and still not going to church, still not doing any of that stuff. And the thing that was keeping me, the thing that the powers of darkness used to keep me, away from giving my life to Christ, was that if you get saved, you're going to turn into a pussy.
Yep.
Because Christians are pussies. And so that was going in the back of my head. It's like, my friends are going to think I'm a pussy if I get saved. Because then I'm going to have to be nice and a nice Doug and a nice version of Doug. And I'm telling you, it got so bad, my guilt and my sin, I was like, I don't care if I have to become a pussy. God come into my heart, man. And then I got brought to church. And guess what?
Your worst fears were real.
I was right. And the powers of darkness were right. Every guy, except for a couple. There's 2 great artists that like to hunt and like to fish and like to repel. If it weren't for them, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, God's sovereign. He's not going to let me go if he brings me into his fold. But I'm telling you what, man, most of the college students in the college group and all the singles at single mingle night, all of them were predominantly losers.
And weak.
Just feckless.
Just weak.
Yeah, they weren't providers, protectors, hunters, and heroes.
I was raised, my dad is tough as balls, man. That's my dad. My dad, former Marine, Vietnam vet. My dad's tough, street fighter. I mean, we grew up in that. And so when I got saved kind of around the church, sort of. And so once I had this powerful conversion, encounter with Christ, and I went to church, I was devouring my Bible. I mean, I was reading it constantly. And I went to church one day. I'd only been saved a few months, and I was sitting there in church, and the pastor's preaching, and he goes, "We're not worms. We're not nobodies. We don't have to be, downtrodden. And I know I feel like that sometimes, and I know you feel." I literally was sitting there and I turned to the person I was sitting next to and I said, I don't feel like that. And I literally said this, Doug, he should sit down and give me the microphone. Now, I was terrified of speaking in front of crowds at that time. I would feel like I was going to pass out. But I was willing, Doug, to step up at that moment and grab the microphone. And my whole message would have been this. And then I went, and the Holy Spirit got a hold of me, and I repented of my sins. And you know what? I didn't even know who I was the next day. But we're winning, man. We are on the winning team. We got this thing. And that's how I felt inside every day. And you know what a guy told me at a Bible study right after that? He said, I gave my testimony. I'm weeping, Doug. I give my testimony, and this guy goes, oh yeah, you're on fire now. That won't last long. Well, guess what?
The cold water bucket.
It's 26 years later, and I'm not less on fire. I'm more on fire. You know what I'm saying? I'm on fire. I'm fired up now, thinking about that. That's what happens to people when they have a real conversion or they experience Christ. They go to church, and what do they get? Now sit down and act like this. No, become a champion. Who did God make you to be? You know, there's certain things we all have to do the same because you're a Christian. But there's a lot of things that you got to be you, who God made you. You know, train up a child in the way he should go, according to his bent, according to the way God designed him, according to the way that God made him. And people need to get fired up. Warriors and wild men, you got to let that warrior inside of you wake up. Not to be Doug, not to be me. You got to let the wild men inside of you wake up. Not to. There might be some things about us that you like. There might be a lot of things you don't. But who did God call you to be? Let that wake up inside of you and be who God called you to be. Because God did not call you to sit on the couch and eat potato chips and hang out doing nothing. I guarantee you that.
There was this graduation ceremony at Wheaton University, which I believe it's a Christian college, right? And anyway, it was 30, maybe 40 years ago, and there was this Korean missionary that had come on. There was this Korean missionary that had the crap beat out of him, like nearly to death, like a dozen times. So he was gonna be the keynote speaker. And prior to him getting up and speaking, there was this little Christian famous tinkerpot that was gonna kind of warm the crowd up, and prior to this badass coming and dropping the hammer of Thor, on the graduating class and stuff. And so the guy, the Korean dude's sitting there on stage, with the rest of the dignitaries and stuff. And the guy is up there speaking, and he goes, he said, my last year as a Christian, he said, it's been so hard. He said, sometimes I thank God for only 24 hours in a day, because if there'd been a 25th, I don't know if I would have made it. And while that guy's still blathering on about how difficult his little life is, the Korean brother steps up and he goes, you must sit down now. You're not saved whatsoever.
That's what I'm talking about. Your Korean accent is terrible, by the way.
Right.
But.
No, so what's funny is that me and my buddies, before we got into the ministry, and we did it afterwards and stuff, when we would hear these whiners get on stage and bleat and bitch about going over molehills in the Garden of Eden instead of true problems, we would always say under our breath, you must sit down now. You're not saved whatsoever. It's about overcoming, man. It's Christus Victor. That's our mantra at Warriors and Wild Men.
Champions on here. Pastor Londa Lundstrom is on here, and she's a great friend of mine, and just ordered some of the books. What book is that, Doug? There's your plug right there. You can throw that in there.
Rules for Radical Christians, man. We've got entire churches. Londa, her church bought a whole box of them for the young people. Listen, young people, you take your faith seriously, and you take the church's role in culture seriously, in all phases of culture. OMG, Rich, this is a Dominion blueprint. It's not a devotional. It's not going to make you, sleepy. It's gonna light a fire under your butt, and it's going to give you 10 practical things to do. That is, if you don't want to be some punk who sits on the sidelines of light, picking lint out of your navel.
And not just for the guys, definitely for the girls too. And parents, man, you gotta read this with the kids, youth pastors. It's pure gold. And if you don't like the book and you disagree with it, there's a picture of me on the back, and you can use it for like darts or target practice or something like that. Yeah, why not? Pastor Londa said, congrats on 50th episode. Love it. Thank you for telling the truth boldly. Thank you, Pastor Londa. You're awesome. We got to have her on Warriors and Wildmen because she knows something about how men should be.
Well, I think with Londa, with Annie, with Mary Margaret, with my daughter Regis, I think we ought to do Warrior Chicks.
Yeah.
And integrate that into our repertoire.
Yep.
Of content, man.
What's up, Jesse, Stephanie, Ryan, TJ, Adriana? What's happening, guys? Good to see everybody on here. Glad you guys are on here with us.
Let me ask the girls.
Marco.
A lot of girls on this. Why do you like it? Why do you like the Warriors and Wild Men podcast? Because most people, when they hear the name Warriors and Wild Men, again they think misogyny, and it's just farting and scratching and burping and doing ogre-like dude stuff. And man, I'm finding more and more that our demographic is hurting near 50-50.
Yep, a lot of women are listening, and that's cool, though. I mean, it's obvious from the ladies that are coming on that you want men to be men, too. But you know what? That's the thing. Here's the thing. Hollywood says, this is how it is now. That's not how it is. A lot of America, a lot of the world's not like that. They're not buying into that. There's a lot of people that are saying, hey, let's do it God's way. I'm down to do it God's way. Here's the deal.
That's why movies like Braveheart, 12 Strong, Gladiator, women aren't going, ew. They're thinking, I'll take him home.
Yeah, go be a champion. Go be a warrior, man. Get this thing on.
Right. Yeah, it's.
Bobby, what's up, Bobby? She said she wants to hang out with world changers. Well, she is a world changer. Husband's a world changer.
Yeah, but
Dad was a world changer.
Look at the people that David hung out with. They weren't dweebs. They weren't.
Look what Londa.
They weren't. I can't see, man. I'm blind. David and his mates in was it 1 Chronicles 12, I believe. They came to him in Ziklag. You looking for the liner? They came to him in Ziklag, and David attracted other warriors to him. And some of them were bigger badasses than David was. They had the ability to sling rocks with right and left hand. Some of them, just for shits and giggles, would go and cut off 1,000 Philistines' penises. and just array them like trophies, and to me, that's hilarious.
You know what I like also? I like that.
Not that we are advocating,
we're not
because
but it's awesome because David goes to the cave and gets hooked up with everybody who's broke, busted, and disgusted, and he starts speaking to the champion inside of him. He just came from leading the kingdom. Right. Now he's a fugitive on the run, and he's like, you know what? God put something great inside of you. He didn't say, hey guys, I'm awesome. He went and said, you guys are awesome. That's what we're talking about today. We're trying to tell you, you could be like those people in the cave, man. You could not have one thing going for you. Get your life right with God. Get serious about living for the Lord. And you know what? God will raise up the warrior and the wild man inside. You can make some things happen. That's our goal. We want to get testimonies from you that say, hey, I started doing this and this and this, and this is what God did in my life, and I'm overcoming, becoming a champion. That's the stuff I want to hear.
When... going back to when I first got converted and stuff, my pastor at that time could see that I was struggling with this whole church crap. He saw it. I wasn't fitting into the college group and the little college Christians, and I wasn't fitting in with the single mingle, Star Wars bar scene of constant rogue losers. And he goes, you know what, Doug? He said, you got a background in crime. He said, do prison ministry, do street evangelism, rock up at concerts and preach to, folks going in to see AC/DC. And, my advice, if you're in a church and it sucks worse than an airplane toilet and you're getting ready to tap out and say, look, I'm not done with God, but, I'm seriously considering leaving whatever this is, I would get into high-risk ministry stuff. Do prison ministry.
Do something
man.
radical.
Yeah, go into a prison, because you have to be anointed, or they'll beat the living crap out of you. And they might beat the living crap out of you if you're anointed.
Yeah.
It's going to be risky. Go get around a bunch of freaks in Austin, and that are having some kind of crazy anti-theistic protest that's raging against everything the Judeo-Christian worldview stands for, and witness to them. See what happens.
What's up, Veronica? Veronica's on here.
If you're tired of business as usual, then you know what? you might not be able to change the place that you're going, but you can change your life. And no telling what kind of crazy ministries that come forth just by you getting, discomfited a little bit and malcontent with the status quo. There's a lot of people like William Booth and Catherine Booth, who founded the Salvation Army. They got tired of it all. They were seeing the kids enslaved to getting paid in alcohol when they're 5 years old, working in coal mines, not being able to go to church because of the Industrial Revolution, and there's no break, secularization of the Sabbath. And William Booth couldn't preach at most churches because he had cussed too much while he was preaching. He went through 5 different denominations. Catherine Booth had to earn the money because she wouldn't cuss when she'd preach. And so Booth, what he did, he started going to bars. He started going to all these dens of iniquity into these big plants. And when the people would get off work from their job, he'd preach to them coming out. And he would go into the bars, and they wouldn't condemn him. You're going to hell. Yeah. They would bring music in. They would light the place up, and then he'd preach good news. And
you know the story about what happened when he was a boy and his dad took him to the bar. His dad took him to a bar when he was young, maybe 11 or 12 years old, sat him down in a bar, and he said, look around. He said, Willie, these are our people. That right there, that marked him, man. That messed him up. He realized it's not going to the church and going, these are the people. The people that we're supposed to be reaching are the people outside the church. And here's another thing. You can't reach people that you hate. If you sit up in the church thinking that we're the ones who have it together and we hate the people out, you are missing the message of Jesus, man.
Think about this, the girl Christy, that every Christian hated Doug. I had this one chick tell me, she was hoity-toity, trophy of this big charismatic church. She told me, she goes, you're lucky you're not dead and in hell. And Christy, on the other hand, said, hey, Doug, Jesus loves you. I wanted to tell you that. It completely blew my mind. It's like, no, he doesn't.
Doug, I walked outside of a grocery store.
Because all his people don't.
I walked outside a grocery store in Yuma, and this guy goes, you're going to hell. And it was before I was a Christian. I literally looked at him, and I said, yeah, tell me something I don't know. I mean, if he would have said, hey, man, Jesus loves you, I literally would have stopped and been like, what'd you say? Yeah. Because that's not a message. My wife made a comment. She said, I love Warriors and Wild Men because it's bringing back the DNA of God to the men today. And it's reminding them that they're champions and they're making men that we like. Women like men that love God and are men.
And then she also said, bring home some milk.
Yeah, bring home some milk. That's what, I don't drink milk. I'm not 5. I cried once when I was born. And I drank milk when I was a baby. And my mom told me that she didn't breastfeed me. And she said, maybe that's why you turned out the way you did. And I said, why didn't you breastfeed me? She goes, because I was young and it was gross. And I said, well, thanks, because I got off the teat early and I hadn't been on it since. So I don't drink milk and I don't cry unless I'm worshiping God. I cry when I worship God sometimes.
Hey guys, we'd like to thank you for 50 episodes, man.
50?
And,
people are crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna get really interesting in the next year, and we got some great stuff coming up, and conferences, excursions, hunting, fishing, stuff with youth, stuff with dudes, single people, extreme missions.
Warrior dad, warrior husband,
warrior CEO,
Man, that's good stuff right there. Yeah. And then some Wildmen excursions are coming. You don't want to miss that. That's going to be awesome. And I'm pumped. I'm excited about it, Doug.
I want to meet the people, man.
Yeah, we want to go hang out. Let's do
some things. I love doing stuff online. I mean, we've killed it with Clash Daily and stuff. But yeah, I like hanging out.
And here's something, too, that I think is important to bring up. Doug and I, we do the podcast, and we try to talk to you guys how we talk with each other. This is what we talk about. These are the things that we talk about, so things that we think are important. But we're going to get together and we're going to do some conferences and stuff. And we have a conference. We're not going to sit here and chit-chat. We'll have times for that, especially when we do the Wildmen excursions and some things like that. We'll have time where we can sit and hang out and just talk. But I promise you, we have a lot of systematic teaching and materials and things that will help you with a list of things to do, a list of things to work on. We're going to be working on some daily video devotional stuff that's going to come out. And these are things that are going to help you, not help you to like us, help you to be who God's called you to be, so you can be a warrior when he wants you to be a warrior. You can be a wild man when he wants you to be a wild man.
Yeah, and our premium content that we're going to put forth, you're not going to be able to ignore it.
Yeah.
You're not going to think, oh, it wasn't that nice. Our intent is to plow the fallow ground of all of our hearts with dynamic biblical teaching that's not boring. I think any minister, any preacher that bores people, I think he should go to hell. Matter of fact, there should be an 11th commandment, Rich. Thou shalt not bore.
That's a good one right there.
So thanks, guys. Rich, what do they need to do, man?
Well, I just want to end on this before I had a little thought here. We want to help you to live the dream that you have in God. When you start becoming bold in who Christ called you to be, dreams will come alive inside of you, and they come from Him. God puts those dreams in your heart. He puts them in your spirit so you can do something great for Him. He doesn't want anybody to be lame. That's not His plan. And I was reading something the other day on Twitter, on Psychology account, and it said, when you wish upon a star, you're 150 million years too late because the star's dead and the light is still traveling. And then it said, so you're 150 million years too late, the star is dead, like your dreams. And I thought, like your wishes. And I think that's great because if you want to wish on a star, guess what? Your dream's dead. If you want to be who God's called you to be, your dream's got to be in God. You got to put some wheels on that thing, and that's what we want to help you with. You need to go to Warriors and Wildmen, subscribe to our podcast, comment on there, review it, tell us what you think. Go to our Facebook page, comment on Facebook, tell us ideas you have, things you want to talk about, opinions about stuff. We don't have to agree with you on anything. Let's get fired up, man. Let's help each other be great warriors and wild men for God.